days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. 49ers versus Broncos upon further review. I love doing these episodes every single week after the 49ers play because it gives me an opportunity to talk about what I saw on film. Because what you see when you watch the game is one thing. When you break down the all-22 film, sometimes you see something else, or maybe it reinforces something that you believed. Or sometimes you see something like, wow, I missed that. This guy was really struggling, or that guy was doing really well. And it kind of gives you a better understanding. Now, one thing we're not taking into account is a lot of times people want to talk about play calling. People want to talk about certain things like that, situational football. That doesn't really play into any of this when it comes to preseason because they don't really game plan. Situational football, they go for it a lot more than they normally would because you want to see your guys go out there and have an opportunity to execute in the biggest moments. But I have started putting my film breakdowns over on Patreon. So I broke down, the starters, everything that came out from the first part. And of course, it's not the 49ers starters for the most part, a couple guys here and there, but it is the Denver Broncos starters. And I went through it and it was a extensive breakdown. So if you're interested in checking that out, that is available over on Patreon. I'm going to go through every single play of every single game and get into it. And it started with the preseason, and there is a lot to learn. And I'm going to go over some of that in this episode. I'm going to talk about some of the things that we saw from the 49ers players, because I do believe that there are some guys that maybe are catching some strays that probably played a little bit better. And then there's probably some guys who are being praised a little bit that had a couple of mistakes. But it's all about explaining what happened in these plays and what they could do to get better. And it's been a fun process. I love doing it. I've always enjoyed going through coaches' film and breaking it down. So this is just an added element to that. And it was a fun game for the 49ers. There was a lot to like from some of their key players, some of their young guys making strides, some of their young guys making mistakes. And ultimately, just getting out there and playing football is the biggest victory, because now you can see where they're at. You have a baseline of who these guys are, and now we can see the development. What's going to happen with them over the next couple of weeks during the preseason? How much better are they going to get? What will they look like against the Raiders? What will they look like when they play the Chargers? Because ultimately, these guys are trying to get better so they can ramp up to be able to help your football team when the season starts against the Seattle Seahawks in Week 1. So we're going to get into all of it. I'm really excited about this episode. Thank you for joining, like always. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. If you're listening on audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And FanDuel has got a full menu of betting options for all your NFC West clashes, including the Game 1 matchup against the Seattle Seahawks. You can bet on standard bets, your spread, total points, money line, player props. How about Brock Purdy passing yards, Christian McCaffrey rushing totals, George Kittle TDs, or Ricky Pearsall receiving yards? Same game parlays, stack picks like 49ers to cover, McCaffrey to score, and all the stuff. What is going to be the game score total? Will the Niners go over? Quarter by quarter action, first quarter lines, and player performance markets. All that available on FanDuel. Go check it out. FanDuel is good. The title sponsor of the 49ers Cutback the entire season. So go check out FanDuel. But right now I want to talk about some of the players. And I think it was easy to see, the guys that stood out. You saw right away that you got rookie Jordan Watkins making the play on the big vertical route where Mac Jones delivered a really beautiful ball, and Watkins did a great job catching the ball. It wasn't like he was wide open. It was a contested catch. And whenever you see a young player make a contested catch like that, it kind of opens your eyes. Hey, this guy is going to be able to compete to play in the NFL. Now, it wasn't all great for Jordan Watkins, and you've probably heard people talk about the fact that the interception is more than likely on Jordan Watkins than Mac Jones. And to a person that's watching football, on game day, you might not understand why. Why is that interception on Watkins, who's a wide receiver, and not on Mac Jones for throwing a errant pass? The reason being is Jordan Watkins was working his route to the outside. His job was to work back towards Mac Jones. So when he made his break, he was about the 45-yard line in opposing territory. He should work back at an angle to the sideline to about the 50-yard line. That's where the football was thrown. That's why it appeared low, because he was throwing it to the outside where Jordan Watkins was supposed to be. If Watkins gets to the 50-yard line where he's supposed to be on that route, that is probably a completion for Watkins going out of bounds. Would have been tight. It would have been a tough catch, but that's kind of the nuance about playing wide receiver, and why Kyle Shanahan often is tough on rookies, those types of plays. What did Jordan Watkins do on that play? He flattened out and worked towards the sideline at the 45-yard line. That doesn't work in the NFL because defensive backs are so good that they are able to make up that ground quickly. And if you go horizontal like that and he's in your hip pocket, you're not going to get to the football before he does. And he undercut Jordan Watkins and made the interception. So that is what a lot of people would call a lazy route. And so that is what happened with Watkins and why he kind of got that interception put on him. So even though in the game it looks like a bad throw by Mac Jones, it's actually not a good route from Jordan Watkins. So these are young mistakes that players are going to make, and they're going to learn from them. Now they can go into the meetings and go through the film, and Leonard Hankerson can point it out, and they could go out onto the practice field and work on Jordan Watkins working back to the sideline and getting that angle and working back that 5 yards that he needs to work back to catch that football. So you've got a little bit of a adjustment there for Watkins from the college game to the NFL game. But, that is just a microcosm of being a young player in the NFL, is you have to learn. And when you get out there and you get opportunities, it's trial by fire. You expect young players to make mistakes. Watkins had plenty of plays where he looked pretty good. Now, the one thing I did notice is that when I was watching him in other plays, Mac Jones was looking for Watkins in other plays as well, is sometimes he was struggling to get off coverage. So these guys were pressing him, getting physical with him, and at times that was a problem for Jordan Watkins. So he's going to have to get a little bit better at making sure he can keep separation from defensive backs, not allow them to lock him up, not allow them to square him up, so that way he can get open. So Watkins had moments where he was getting open. It was great to see the vertical pass down the field, the contested catch, and then there were some missteps as well. But overall, I thought it was a positive outing. A lot of things he could learn from. But I thought that Watkins overall, because he was getting so much attention, was somebody to really highlight. Because I do believe he's got an opportunity. And I've been saying this for like a week and a half or so, even before the preseason game, that I thought Jordan Watkins had an opportunity from what I had seen at training camp for him to be able to make, a couple of plays a game, get targeted, have an opportunity, a screen pass, one of these jet sweep plays or a reverse, catch the ball on a vertical pass like he did in the game. I think that's what we can kind of see from Watkins. But if you're thinking after that performance in week 1 of the preseason that he's ready to be a starting wide receiver for the 49ers right now, I would say kind of temper those expectations, kind of push pause on that a little bit. I don't think it's something that he's not able to attain at some point. I just don't think he's ready right now. Now I'm hoping he fixes these problems against the Raiders and he's going to have an opportunity to get more snaps. And the good thing is with the preseason, the 49ers are a little light on wide receivers. Jordan Watkins is going to get plenty of opportunities to prove that he can improve his game. So I'm a fan of Jordan Watkins. I like the things that he did, but there are definitely things he needs to work on as a young player, and I think that's to be expected. We're talking about a guy that's coming out of Ole Miss that they didn't run a lot of the route tree the 49ers are going to run. So some of these things they didn't have to do in that offense, and that's okay. Now, I want to talk about another guy because I brought up that some guys are taking strays. And I'd seen on Twitter, it's several different people talking about Robert Beal Jr., and there was a lot of negative around Robert Beal Jr., and I thought, man, did I miss Robert Beal Jr. playing bad? And you always wonder if you're missing a guy like maybe not holding his setting the edge in the run game, a guy that's not being able to generate pass rush. But I will say, I thought Robert Beal Jr. had a pretty good game. And it's unfortunate now that he's dealing with a groin injury that could hold him out for a little while. You got Okuwanu with the groin injury, Robert Beal Jr. with a groin injury, because I thought Robert Beal Jr. actually played pretty well. He's had a firm edge in the run game. There is one play on the film breakdown. I called it the best run fit the 49ers are going to have the entire game. It was phenomenal. Robert Beal Jr. took on Mike McGlinchey. He completely squared him up, did not give up any movement, and then put his outside arm free just like you're supposed to, came off and helped make the tackle, turned the guy inside. And it was great because you had the defensive lineman, Alfred Collins, working really hard. You had linebacker stepping up. Safety Marquis Siegel got in his gap. It was like run fits across the board, and you could see RJ Harvey had nowhere to go. It was one of the best plays of the entire preseason, and it stopped them for, I think it was like a 1 yard loss or a no gain. It was like right around there, but it was just phenomenal. And what I saw from Robert Beal Jr. it wasn't perfect, but there was definitely a lot to like. And what I did like as well is he was starting to generate a little pass rush. And this has been one of the question marks about Robert Beal Jr. over the last couple years. Drafted out of Georgia, everything's about GTFO. Get off the ball, get to the backfield, make plays. He's all predicated on speed. And Chris Tesaric completely turned him into a base down defensive end that set the edge really well. He worked on his body. He put on weight. He got more physical. His technique got good. And, going against Mike McGlinchey, that's a good run blocker. We have a lot of things to say about Mike McGlinchey. One thing we never argue as 49er fans or anyone that covers this football team is Mike McGlinchey can run block very successfully at a high level. That's why he gets paid the money he gets paid. Robert Beal studded him up and made that play off the edge, showing potential. He also was able to use a swipe move to get home on a sack. There was pressure up the middle that definitely helped, but he got there. And so I watched him on special teams, been going through all the special teams reps. I watched him, playing defense, and I thought Robert Beal Jr. had a pretty good game overall. I thought it was good. And I think a lot of people left that game thinking Beal Jr. didn't play well, but he did. And so I thought that was interesting. Now I'm disappointed we might not see him for the rest of the preseason with the groin injury because I thought he was doing a good job. Now let's talk about a linebacker that to me is doing really good, and that is Tatum Bethune. Tatum Bethune, coming into the season, I was kind of saying, hey, maybe this guy could be the starting Sam backer. I had a lot of belief in him. Seen some of the things he had done at the end of last season that I thought were pretty good. His coverage got better. I'm like, okay, Tatum Bethune stepping in. Then you start hearing the reports about him working on his body. Well, when he got out there, he was playing Mike linebacker. He was just doing a very good job. And it's not easy to play Mike linebacker, be the guy that gets the signals, relay all those signals to everybody, and then go to the right spots. But what I saw was a linebacker that was playing consistent football. He wasn't out of place. He wasn't out of alignment. He was where he was supposed to be. He was making sure everyone else was where they're supposed to be. And he showed some sideline-to-sideline ability for a guy that doesn't really have a lot of speed. So it was nice to see Tatum Bethune kind of take control and play that linebacker spot. And I think that Luke Gifford's getting a lot of attention, which he should, because he played well in his snaps that he played at Sam linebacker. Luke Gifford is on track to be the starting Sam linebacker. But I don't think it's out of the question that Tatum Bethune is pushing for that spot either. His instincts, the way he engages, it's pretty good. Now, those two guys are pretty close right now, and I think it's a lot of fun that the Niners have a couple linebackers, not named Fred and D. Winters, that are playing pretty well. And so it was good to see Tatum Bethune step up into that role because I think that during training camp, he's been quiet. There hasn't been a lot of conversation about Bethune. It was conversation during OTAs and minicamp, but since they got into training camp, it was pretty silent, radio silence about Bethune. But I thought in this game, he really reasserted himself as a player that's not only going to be on this team, but have an opportunity to make plays for this football team at some point. I don't know if that means Sam linebacker. I think right now Gifford's got the edge, but I do think he's in competition, which we kind of thought maybe Nick Martin would put himself in competition, but we know Nick Martin had a little bit of struggles. Now, I got to talk about Martin because Martin has definitely been a topic of conversation. And, I put out on Twitter during the game, and I was kind of tweeting as the game was going on, And the thing I recognized right away from Nick Martin was he was a little eager. He was looking to make some plays. And, I love that from a young player. They want to go out there. They want to make everybody understand why they were drafted. And he's got all those people that have been saying, why did you take Nick Martin in the 3rd round when you could have got him in the 5th or the 6th round? And those things don't always go dismissed. Players hear that, and they want to go out and they want to prove it. But the thing is, you've got to let this game come to you. You've got to settle in, and you can't go out there and prove your worth every single play. What you've got to do is go out there and just execute the best you can and do your best and stack plays on top of each other, and then it will reveal to people why you were drafted. Now, the reason he was drafted in the 3rd round, we saw out there. The athleticism, the instincts, the sideline-to-sideline speed, it's all there. The talent physically is there for Nick Martin. What we saw, though, was a guy that was too eager, coming up, flying up out of control to make tackles. That caused him to miss some tackles and get juked by R.J. Harvey because he just didn't break down. And when you don't break down, when you don't do things right, when you don't put your technique above your eagerness to make a play, you're going to make mistakes. You have to be able to play under control in the NFL. You want to play fast, but you want to play under control. And so that is where Nick Martin had a little bit of struggles. But I will say this, going back and watching, there's a lot to like too. There was some nice plays from Nick Martin in this game. He may not have finished the play, but he caused the play to be a negative play. Like there's one play that he steps up into his gap. It's a run play to the left, an outside zone. And the edge is being set, but not very good. And all of a sudden, he steps up into his gap, and R.J. Harvey bounces. And Nick Martin goes flying outside, jumps outside, and R.J. Harvey tries to cut back in, and the Niners make the tackle. Nick Martin was playing the position in that play. He got downhill. He got into his gap. He made the running back change course. Then he proceeded to help the defensive end set the edge. And luckily for him, Sebastian Valdez worked down the line of scrimmage and made the tackle. You've probably seen it by now. Valdez running down the sideline, making the tackle on the running back. That doesn't happen unless Nick Martin gets to his spot, team defense. And so there are things like that to like about Nick Martin. And so it wasn't all bad. Yes, there's plenty of stuff where he's going to have a lot of things to get coached up on. But I think that's the positive, as you've seen plays like that. And I will say his instincts in the run game were pretty darn good. He was pulling the trigger. There's another play. He comes flying through on the backside and starts running down after the running back because he pulled the trigger, made him change his mind. Now, do you come through the gap? Are you supposed to come through the gap if the ball's not coming your way? No. He should have been flowing downhill, but behind the line of scrimmage. So you don't have the speed to track somebody down. So it wasn't perfect technique, but the instincts is what you see. You can teach someone technique. If they have instincts, it makes it a lot easier. It's harder to teach the instincts. So those are some good things that we have seen now from Nick Martin. So I did like that. Now, Kalia Davis, I'm going to talk about some of these defensive linemen as well. Kalia Davis was playing really well. This was, in my opinion, I know he flashed last year in the preseason. This was Kalia Davis's best performance. From him working down the line of scrimmage in zone, to him working a stunt and being able to put pressure on the quarterback, to him bull rushing and eventually getting a sack when the quarterback had to step up. It was a pretty complete performance from Kalia Davis. Is it, like I said, is it going to be all good every play? No, but this is the more consistent player you're hoping to see. And when you look at the 49ers defensive line depth chart, Kalia Davis is one of the guys that still has that ability to penetrate and make plays, right? You have some guys that, like a Jordan Elliott, he could still do that. He's been dealing with the back injury. Kevin Givens was one of those guys. He's going to be out for the early part of the season with a pectoral injury, the same one he had last year. So he could be out for a while. So you really don't have the guys, right? CJ West is going to get there, not quite there yet. Alfred Collins, not quite a penetrator. He likes playing around the line of scrimmage right now. That's what he's comfortable with. You've seen that at Texas, kind of seeing that still. But Kalia Davis is the guy that's being aggressive, getting in the backfield. Him and Sebastian Valdez, who had a pretty good game as well. I thought Valdez put some things on film that are good for him to be able to build to make this roster. But I thought Kalia Davis, Sebastian Valdez definitely stepped up. Now, when talking about your other guys, CJ West and Alfred Collins, Alfred Collins was taking a beating for his play. I think that people, when they break down the film, are going to find some things that they like about Alfred Collins. A couple of the run plays I talked about earlier with Robert Beal setting the edge, one of those Alfred Collins was taking on the starting right guard for the Denver Broncos, and he was holding his ground, and then when the running back tried to cut, he threw him out of the way. Quinn Miners getting thrown out of the way by Alfred Collins was an impressive look. Those are the types of things you see, and you're like, woohoo, that's part of the reason it was a great run fit was Alfred Collins. Robert Beal, Alfred Collins, Marquise Siegel, working it, guys working down the line, CJ West. It was just a great play. Those are some of the things that you like from Alfred Collins. Is he penetrating the way you're hoping? No. Is he generating a pass rush the way you're hoping? No. We did see Alfred Collins, CJ West get some pass rush snaps and reset the line of scrimmage. They were pushing and getting an internal push. Not there yet. There's still some more development that needs to happen. There's some times I would have liked to seen him not get washed. CJ West, the same thing. Guys getting washed down. So what that's saying is when you're in a zone and they're moving you too far. You're moving out of your spot too far, and you can't have that happen. You got to be able to kind of hold your ground. And so we did see that too much, especially from those two guys who are supposed to be really good run stoppers. But you would see it on the next play. Maybe they would do better. And so it wasn't consistently bad and it wasn't consistently good. It was hit and miss. You saw the things you like. You saw the things you don't like. But the thing was, when they held up, that's when the 49ers run defense was like, ooh. Because we didn't see that a whole lot last year where they were able to hold their ground up front. So that was exciting to see. I thought Alfred Collins had some moments. There was a spotty play. It's not great. But there are moments where it's really good. And you're like, ooh, okay, Alfred Collins, I see what your potential is. And so I thought Alfred Collins, CJ West, Sebastian Valdez kind of showed what those guys are about. And I thought Kalia Davis definitely showed up and showed out of all the defensive linemen that the 49ers played. So that was exciting to see for those guys. Now, one of the conversations has been about the 49ers interior offensive line. And I will say this, it was very hit and miss. Especially with that first group, Nick Zakelj, Matt Hennessy at center, Ben Bartch at guard. I don't think it was Ben Bartch's best performance. I don't think he did a very good job run blocking. And that is the element of his game that he's better than Nick Zakelj at. But Nick Zakelj didn't do a great job pass blocking either. I thought Nick Zakelj was going to have a better anchor than he had in this game, but he was getting walked back. He was getting moved. A couple of times he had trouble with lateral quickness, guys getting across his face. Those guys definitely struggled on the inside. I thought Matt Hennessy was probably the best of the three on the inside, playing the center position. He still struggles a little bit when he gets to the second level with lateral quickness, which kind of gives the advantage to Jake Brendel. Brendel gets there and he can move laterally pretty well and stay in front of guys. He's not going to hold the block very long, but he's going to be able to get in the way. I thought Hennessy was pretty good at it. It wasn't great, but it was pretty good. The one thing I'll say about Hennessy, point of attack, like, hey, we got to move this guy in front of us, it's definitely better than Brendel. I thought he did a good job there. I thought the pass blocking overall was pretty good for Matt Hennessy. I thought it was a good first performance for him. He's going to want to get better, but overall I thought that he made himself somebody the 49ers are interested in keeping around because of the way he played. Now, Zakelj, I thought it was a rough first outing. I didn't think it was all bad. There was some plays he did a pretty good job, but there was still a lot of misses. And I talked about some of the anchoring and getting walked back and some of those things. That's not perfect, but there were plays that these guys made that were pretty decent. So I would say it wasn't as bad probably for Zakelj as people thought after watching the game. It probably wasn't that bad. But I don't think it's also that good either. I don't think it was his best performance. I think he would tell you that. So he needs to ramp it up. Isn't it an adjustment going from left guard to right guard? Yes. But Zakelj should be able to handle it as a guy who should be a swing interior offensive lineman. And with Ben Bartch, he hasn't been back very long. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. But this isn't consistent left guard play. If this is the guard play you're going to get from Ben Bartch, and I know this might seem like a harsh statement, but if this is the guard play you're going to get from Ben Bartch, the 49ers, John Lynch needs to pick up the phone and call John Feliciano because you do need a starting left guard. And I don't think we saw starting left guard reps from Ben Bartch. I don't think we've seen starting guard reps from Nick Zakelj. Matt Hennessy, maybe, but we haven't seen him at guard. We've seen him at center. So this is Still a little bit of a question mark. 49ers don't have left guard figured out. I think Ben Bartch needs to get more reps. So I think he should play against the Raiders. I think he should play against the Chargers because it's not figured out yet, in my opinion. Now, when you're talking about the two offensive tackles, I think both of them struggled with speed, whether that was Spencer Burford or Austin Pleasance. Burford, there's one for sure. He got cooked off the outside by Nick Bonito. I think everyone remembers that play. That was not a good rep for him. He just never got out of his stance. I know Kyle Shanahan talked about the snap count, and there was some confusion there. Maybe that's the case, and give him the benefit of the doubt. Now, the next play on that drive, they brought Jake Tunges into the backfield, and Jake Tunges didn't do a great job. He was supposed to give help. On the other side, Patrick Taylor did a great job of giving Austin Pleasance help. He even chipped before he released, and he did a great job. Jake Tunges did not do that. Jake Tunges, in fact, stayed inside on his help, did not help Spencer Burford, and Burford got beat around the outside. Mac Jones would have had an opportunity to get rid of the football, couple receivers that he could have got the ball to. That was negated because of that. I think it's partly on Spencer Burford, partly on Jake Tunges. So, it was hit and miss for Burford. The run blocking at times, effective. The run blocking, other times not so effective. So I would say him, Bartch, Zakel, inconsistent at best. When you look at Austin Pleasance, you still see the footwork. It's still a little bit of a problem. He's got heavy feet. And so I wonder how quickly he's going to develop. And I don't know what's going to happen with the 49ers offensive tackle spot right now. But I would say that they have a real question mark at left guard as far as starter from what I've seen from Bartch in preseason. I think he can get better. So I think he can iron this thing out. But I think that's a question mark. I'd be lying if I said I didn't have a concern about it. And I think swing tackle is a real concern. I'm not sold on Burford right now. I'm not sold on Austin Pleasance. Don't know what's going to happen with Andre Dillard. I don't think Isaiah Prince proved that he's ready for that role either. The 49ers might have to find a way to make some sort of adjustment to get a swing tackle. Maybe somebody gets released or cut that they could go after, or maybe somebody becomes available. But I think right now this is a question mark for the 49ers is swing tackle and left guard with the offensive line. I just think that's how it is. So that's going to be something the 49ers are going to have to address. And I went over all the technique things when I was doing my Patreon breakdown. So it's a thing. Now, I do want to highlight Marquise Siegel, because Marquise Siegel had himself one heck of a game. And there were mistakes. He had a couple of blown coverages. But the one thing I'll say about Marquise Siegel is Marquise Siegel has a quick adjustment period to makes a mistake and goes right back, right? Short memory. Some guys, they'll make a mistake and it affects them the rest of the game or on the next play. Not Marquise Siegel. He messed up in coverage, didn't cover the back out of the backfield when he had that responsibility in zone coverage. Comes back the very next play. They run a screen pass. So much space. Open field tackling with this kind of space, dangerous, especially with a running back like RJ Harvey. And what does he do? Runs up, breaks down perfectly, makes him make his cut, makes the tackle phenomenal. So Marquise Siegel had moments where he just looked really good. And you start to see how he can be a really perfect match for Malik Mustafa. And they could see that once you get Siegel and you get Malik and you get Siegel to the point where he's ready to make some big time plays, those two guys together are going to be nasty. So I was enjoying what I was seeing. There were the mistakes. Like we said, all the rookies made mistakes. But there was a lot to like from Marquise Siegel, and I was a huge fan. Darrell Luter Jr., I thought, had an up and down game. There were a couple of plays here and there. He looked good. I wanted to give him credit. But there were also some times where he didn't pull the trigger coming up and stepping up and stopping the run a little bit soon enough. A couple times he got mixed up in coverage and got beat. So I thought it was up and down for Darrell Luter Jr. I think he's going to have to prove a little bit more. I think Jacob Robinson is going to have to prove some more at cornerback as well. So he's going to be a question mark. Chase Lucas, phenomenal. Chase Lucas put himself in the mix to make this football team. I don't think he's locked in to make this football team. I don't want to get that started. He's got to keep performing. And Trey Brown performed pretty darn well as well. Trey Brown had himself one heck of a game out there. I know he's playing against the threes, but he, 90 PFF score for a reason. He was consistently good. So we'll see. They're probably going to flip Trey Brown's probably going to get more early snaps. Dallas Flowers will probably move down the depth chart. We'll see what happens. But I think that we're going to see more Trey Brown. He'll get more opportunities. He's going to be somebody to watch and monitor as the 49ers are trying to kind of put this 53-man roster together. So overall, I would say just looking at this team, the 49ers had some positions, where guys stepped up and made plays, some young guys that made mistakes, but they also made some flashes. And I think that's what you expect. But there's still decisions to be made, and I think this Raiders week coming up is going to be very interesting. So if you want the deep, in-depth breakdown of every single play, it's going to be available on Patreon. Like I said, the first part is up. I'm going to keep breaking it down. It's going to be in a couple installments, so you guys will be able to see that. If you like doing that, you can check that out. Like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. If you're listening to audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating if you feel like I deserve it. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And if you have certain guys you want me to talk about, certain things you want me to get deeper into, let me know in the comment section. I have no problems getting into those and making that available. So let me know in the comment section. I'll try to get to it. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.